Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to everyone joining us today. I am Caroline McLaughlin and the Chief Partnerships Officer at AVPN. I am delighted to be the MC of this session today, Catalysing Philanthropy Through Innovative Approaches. Before I introduce the session and the speakers, I know that many of you are familiar with AVPN, but for those of you who are joining for the very first time, I did want to take some time to provide a quick overview of AVPN. Our mission is to move more capital towards impact in Asia. And so we are an ecosystem builder and a network of funders and resource providers with over 600 members across 32 markets, providing social investors like yourself with the opportunities to connect, learn, and lead. Before we start the session, I wanted to first make a few housekeeping announcements that will help you get the most out of this session. Firstly, I really encourage you to introduce yourself to the others in the room through the community chat box that you can see on the screen below, and become connected virtually with the other delegates who are signing in from across the world. If you are finding that your webcam video is facing a lag, please pause the video by hovering over the image, such as my face, to reduce your internet bandwidth. The app version of Adobe Connect will offer you the best user experience. If at any point you get disconnected or have a bad connection, try to log out of the app and then log back in. If you are using the browser, refresh the page. There is also a low-tech option available on Zoom, and the link can be accessed via the session page. If you are facing any other technical challenges, such as difficulties in hearing the speakers, please do not hesitate to reach out to us through the Q&A pod or to use the link provided to reach the AVPN help desk. Please note that this session will be recorded and you will be able to access the recording from conference.avpn.asia. We know that you will have questions for the speakers, so please feel free to type your questions in for the Q&A part of the session. And we're going to try to get to as many as possible, although due to time constraints, we may not be able to respond to all your questions. We are sharing highlights of our day live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, so don't forget to share your experience with us by using the hashtag AVPN2020. And at the bottom of the screen, we have also provided you with reading materials that you can download or refer to relevant to this session. And finally, for those delegates with full ticket access, please continue chatting with your speakers and fellow delegates in this session through the AVPN connector, and the link may be found in the resource section. I am so looking forward to moderating this session today on catalyzing philanthropy through innovative approaches. Charitable giving has always been a part of every society's response to supporting those in need. And now, in the middle of 2020, as we face unprecedented disruption across all of society, the social sector must also respond creatively to delivering support as efficiently and as effectively as possible. Innovation is recognized as the key to success in the commercial world. And today we wanted to explore how this can also equate to success in the philanthropic sector. And we're going to talk to 3 foundations who are using innovative approaches to catalyze more philanthropic social investment towards solutions. Finally, we first wanted to engage with the audience and to give the panelists a sense of who is watching this session. There are 2 poll questions that will be now brought up onto the screen. And it would be great if you could take the time to complete these questions to give us an overview of who is in the audience and what innovative approaches you are currently using in your own work. I'll give just a few seconds to give people the opportunity to participate in the polls. So this is great. We have a lot of foundations and trusts, corporate financial institutions, and I think that, and also social purpose organizations. So I think that we are hoping that what the panelists will be discussing and sharing from their foundation approaches will really be able to support some of your work. I can also see that we have a whole range of innovative approaches that people are using, from online donations, crowdsourcing, data analytics. And I think that it will be wonderful as we look into those and see how we can incorporate them into some of the work moving forward. So I'm thrilled to introduce our first panelist, Dr. Moses Cheng, GBM, GBS, JP, is one of the Board of Governors of the Lo Chi Wo Prize. Dr. Chen is also a consultant and former senior partner of Messrs. P.C. Wu & Co., one of the longest established law firms in Hong Kong. Dr. Chen has served in many public roles and held a number of non-executive directorships. And in recognition of his many services and contributions to the United Kingdom, in recognition of his many services and contributions to Hong Kong, was awarded the OBE by Her Majesty the Queen of the United Kingdom in 1997, and the Gold Bohemia Star and the Gold Bohemia Medal by the HKSAR government. The Lo Chi Wo Prize is an innovative award that aims to recognize and honor individuals or organizations from any region or any sector who have made outstanding achievements and contributions in one of the following objectives: sustainable development, betterment of the welfare of mankind, and the promotion of positive life attitude and enhancement of positive energy. It is really a prize needed now more than ever as the world faces COVID-19 recovery. And I would like to invite Dr. Cheng to share more about the prize, its laureates, and long-term goals. Thank you, Dr. Cheng.
Okay, hi. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I would start off again. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my great pleasure and honor to represent the Lo Chi Wo Prize in joining this AVPN conference. And the Lo Chi Wo Prize was founded by Dr. Lo Chi Wo in 2015, and it is a prize for world civilization, and it is an international cross-sector award for advancing world civilization and inspiring people to build a better and more harmonious world. The Lo Chi Wo Prize is unique in that it is the only prize giving recognition to outstanding achievers in advancing the world civilization rather than just scientific discovery or advancement of peace. Dr. Lo is one of the well-known and respected entrepreneurs and philanthropists based in Hong Kong. For a long while, Dr. Lo had been donating towards the building of schools and universities in Hong Kong and on the mainland of China, as well as funding research projects at universities and colleges, as he fully appreciates the importance of education towards the development of a young person and the well-being of a country. The establishment of the Lo Chi Wo Prize is an innovative step taken by Dr. Lo in the furtherance of his desire to do good and share his good fortune with others. In the deliberation with fellow members of the board, Dr. Lo told us that he was observing that there's too much negative feelings in the world, leading to a lot of issues resulting in dispute amongst people and countries. As such, he wished to take steps to advance positive energy and recognize efforts in promoting a better and more harmonious world. The Logie World Prize was thus conceived, organized, and launched. Now, aligning with the prize-free objective, there are three prize categories. The first one is a sustainability prize, and it recognizes outstanding achievement in maintaining a sustainable ecological balance and natural capital on the one hand, and providing for the needs of future generation on the other. Secondly, the second category is Welfare Betterment Prize. It acknowledges outstanding effort to enhance the well-being of the human race. And thirdly, it's a Positive Energy Prize. It honors a model of unwavering determination and demonstrated in the adoption of a positive attitude and making constructive changes in the face of setback, hardship, and adversity. Each laureate will receive a cash award of Hong Kong $20 million, which is equivalent to approximately 2.56 million US dollar, a certificate, and a trophy. Each prize is awarded to a single recipient who can either be an individual or organization. Now, I'm going to show you some of this is the prize council, the three-tier structure, which the prize is adopting to adjudicate nominations received from all over the world. And then I'm going to continue to show you the recipient of our various prizes, and you can see the laureate of Sustainability Prize would include Yuan Nongping, who is awarded for the alleviation of global food insecurity by breeding cross-hybrid crops. And then for Mr. Shi Jinhua for the prevention of climate change on international level, and then to Hans Joseph Fell as the pioneer of global renewable energy movement. And then in 2019, this award goes to the Nature Conservancy, who is doing a lot of work in the conservation of lands and water. Now, for the laureate of Welfare Betterment Prize, in 2016 is Médecins Sans Frontières, and in 2017 is Landesa, and 2018 is the World Meteorological Organization, and then in 2019 is Professor Jennifer Doudna. And then for the laureate of Positive Energy Prize, you can actually see that in 2016 is President Jimmy Carter, and then in 2017 is the International Paralympic Committee. In 2018 is Patham for Foundation for the Elimination of Illiteracy, and then in 2019 is Professor Fan Jinxi for the preservation of the Dunhuang Mongol Gotos. Now, from you can actually see that the work of these laureates actually fit very well and go to a long way to tell us how Dr. Lui would like to pursue to promote and further his ideals and his philosophy through the work of these people. And one of the requirements to the laureates is that besides helping us in promoting the philosophy of the prize, they will have to utilize the prize money to continue to further whatever they are doing in the objective of promoting world peace and understanding. Now that is what we feel that being an innovation of Dr. Lui in trying to involve people from different parts of the world to continue the good work to promote a better and more harmonious world. Now, thank you very much, and this is to conclude my short introduction on the Logie World Prize.
Thank you, Dr. Cheng. I would now like to introduce our second panelist, Don Kanak. Don is the chairman of Prudence Foundation, the community engagement arm of Prudential in Asia. He is also chairman of Eastspring Investments, the Asia Investment Organization of Prudential PLC, which is one of Asia's leading retail asset managers, with $241 billion in assets under management as at 31st of December 2019. He is based in Hong Kong and has lived and worked in Asia for over 30 years. The Prudence Foundation is a non-profit foundation with a mission to secure the future of communities by enhancing education, health, and safety. Don, can I ask you to share more about the Prudence Foundation and its origins in supporting disaster mitigation, and the new and innovative approach that you have taken to supporting the challenge that you launched last year and that AVPN was very proud to support?
Thank you, Caroline. I want to just confirm that you can hear me okay? I can't hear you, so I'm just going to assume. Okay, great. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be able to present in this session and to be able to follow Dr. Moses Chung in that incredible and amazing award, the Liu Chi Wu Prize. I would start just by introducing, I think many of our listeners won't know who the Prudence Foundation is or what we do. We're a relatively young organization, established in 2011, but building on over about a 100-year history of Prudential in Asia. Prudential, as some of you know, but to not confuse with Prudential Financial of the U.S., Prudential PLC, a company founded in the UK in the 1800s, has been operating in the region for almost a century. And today we have a very large footprint across the Asia region, and we also have a growing business in Africa, and Prudence Foundation focuses on both of those regions. You might expect that a young foundation with a very small staff, we only have 4 professionals, would start off with an ambition that needed to include innovation, since we were starting from a base of 0, but building on this history of Prudential. But also, given a small staff, we knew we had to catalyze partners. So I would say if I was going to, anything about our fundamental core strategy, it was to try to stay focused, try to do things that we saw empty space that no one else was working in, or at least we could bring something new to that. And thirdly, we could reach out and involve many partners to leverage whatever capabilities we could bring. And so in that regard, this particular chart says we focus on 3 areas: education, health, and safety. And you can see several programs which are listed there. I won't talk about all of those programs today, but I'll focus on 2 areas: Safe Steps and the Disaster Tech partnership, which those are the 2 areas specifically related to disaster. The other areas are children's financial literacy, and then we have another very large-scale program in safe schools that we work in the region as well. Let me switch to the next slide and talk a minute about our journey into working with disasters, natural disasters. For those who are tuning in from somewhere in Asia, you already know that Asia, this is the Asian century, we know, or we are told, but Asia has for a long time been the leading region of the world in something that is the subject of this conference, which is disaster, natural disasters in particular. Over 800,000 lives have been lost since the year 2000 in disasters. Over 3.2 billion people have been affected in some way by natural disasters since 2000, and the economic losses are at least $1 trillion or more. So it's not surprising that, if you think of our organization as one that's based on life insurance, health insurance, and also very long-term investors in the communities in which we work, we would have a strong interest in saving lives and in resilience in those communities, a long-term, stable, growing, and inclusive society. So that led us, as we were doing disaster work on the ground, in the field, whether it was earthquakes, typhoons, floods. We worked in Cambodia, Thailand, Indonesia, Japan, China, all around the region, there was some type of natural disaster. One of the things we saw in many of those cases was that the communities that had been well prepared before the disaster had very low loss of lives, in some cases no loss of life, and the next door community or nearby community which wasn't prepared was much more severely damaged and many more people were injured or killed. And we then, based on that knowledge, began to create an idea which would produce on a large scale information which we call life-saving tips. And we work with a number of partners to create a program called Safe Steps, which is short video clips that you might see if you're looking at the Nat Geo channels, or if you're at an airport waiting, looking at a monitor, or maybe if you're in the Philippines before a movie film starts, you might see a clip with a well-known person talking about how to be ready. That might be Manny Pacquiao, or it might be Michelle Yeoh talking about road safety tips. Or if you're in Africa today, you might see Didier Drogba talking about road safety. Something that will get your attention and give you a very quick and memorable list, a menu, if you will, of things that you can do for your family or yourself to be safe and to avoid injury or death in the case of a natural disaster, or in the case of road safety, or now we have first aid as well, Safe Steps. As we were going through that journey, and that program now reaches over 250 million people a day through all sorts of partnerships and media, we were also seeing our business transform, and we were seeing our lives transformed by technology. We had health tech, we had fintech, we had ed tech, but we weren't seeing people talking about disaster tech. And it just seemed to us that it would make a lot of sense to try to bring the same energy and innovation and creativity that technologists and entrepreneurs can bring to disasters as they were bringing to every other field. And so with partners, and you can see a number of partners listed on this chart, with AVPN, with Antler, with Google.org, Nat Geo again, IFRC, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent, we conceived a contest. It's a global contest which reached out. AVPN did a great job of being our core organizer for reaching out, but we had other partners also reaching out, and we offered a prize to entrepreneurs who could show they had a working solution that applied to natural disasters in some form, either pre or during or post-disaster, to reduce life damage or to recover quicker or to help people be safer, and that it could apply to Asia. You could apply from anywhere, but it had to have applicability in Asia. I'm pleased to say that that contest, which launched for the first time last year in February, was concluded at the AVPN conference in the summer in Singapore, produced 60 entrants. They went through several rounds of written applications, and then what we get, those of you who are familiar with Shark Tank, a series of interviews in front of judges, and we narrowed the field down to 5 finalists that came to Singapore and made presentations there in front of a larger audience of AVPN participants. And we awarded 3 prizes. The total was $150,000. But the goal wasn't really just the prize money. The goal was to get exposure for those great entrepreneurs, whether they were one of the winning entrepreneur operation was out of Nepal. They had a digital tool that really had the ability to, after a disaster, give the community and its architects and its building code providers or whatever a quick inventory of recovery plans and building plans, so they didn't have to start from scratch. They could rebuild a school, rebuild a hospital, rebuild a road, or whatever they needed to do using existing plans that had already been approved by international donors. So that was the winning entry. We had the second place was an early warning earthquake system using AI and very affordable sensors that could be used in developing countries. I won't go into any more detail, but I would say this turned out to be a very good success. We appreciate AVPN's partnership, and we will repeat the contest again. Maybe I could talk more about that later, but that explains our journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. That was great, and we were very proud partners of the challenge this year. I now would like to introduce Lindsay Louie. Lindsay is a program officer for Hewlett Foundation's Effective Philanthropy Group. In this role, she supports two grant-making strategies that seek to increase and improve the effectiveness of all foundations: the Knowledge for Better Philanthropy and the Fund for Shared Insight. She's also served as an executive director of the Silicon Valley Social Venture Fund and worked for Goodwill Industries. I don't think it needs too much introduction, but just in case, the Hewlett Foundation is over 50 years old and a large foundation, a very large foundation, with a mission to advance ideas and support institutions to promote a better world. Lindsay, as part of the Effective Philanthropy Group at Hewlett, you stewarded some innovative programs that helped to improve the field of philanthropy and improve the effectiveness of the nonprofit sector. Can you share with us how a major international foundation like Hewlett focused on innovation in its giving, and then give us some examples of these programs?
Of course, Caroline. Thank you. And it's great to be here with all of you and my esteemed fellow panelists. I think I've already learned more than I will contribute this afternoon. As Caroline mentioned, the Hewlett Foundation is a private charitable foundation based in the US, but working globally on a broad range of issues, from advancing education to preserving the environment to trying to improve lives and livelihoods in developing countries around the world. Many of these challenges that we aspire to improve can't be tackled alone. I think that's as clear today as it's ever been. And so collaboration among funders is one increasingly essential component to make the changes that we seek and to get results. Now, collaboration itself is not new. It's probably as old as time. But I wanted to share 3 innovative collaborations that we're part of, because we found that collaborating in different ways is a key way that we can bring innovation into the foundation and into the different types of work that we're trying to do. The first collaborative you can see on the left is one where we are a leader in the collaborative and working to scale it, and it's called Listen for Good. Listen for Good is a client feedback program that supports both funders and nonprofits to listen to the people that they're ultimately seeking to help in their work. When we first started out to make grants like this on our own, we put out an open RFP and said, if you want to listen to clients, apply for a grant. And we got back 120 proposals, of which we could only fund 7 because of the cost of each program developing their own feedback system. That was not a good day as a funder. We needed a way to make it less expensive and to recruit more funders to help with the work. And that's how we created the Listen for Good tool. Nonprofits get a grant that's paid for half by us and half by another funder who nominates them. And this has enabled us to recruit 100 new funders, to double our money, and to make, I think we're close to 500 now of these grants across the US. So structuring Listen for Good in this co-funded collaborative partnership model has enabled far more reach and impact than Hewlett could have had on our own. The second collaborative I wanted to share is called Blue Meridian Partners. And in Blue Meridian, we play much more of a supporting role. Blue Meridian brings together major donors and social sector leaders to scale promising approaches and strategies that will solve poverty in America. That is not a small challenge. Poverty is a huge, seemingly intractable, intergenerational problem. It is not one that most nonprofits can solve if they get a $10,000 grant, a $50,000 grant, even a $100,000 grant. And those are the typical sizes of foundation grants in America. But Blue Meridian has a new approach. They have 16 partners who have pooled 2.6 billion, with a B, US dollars, as gross capital. So the nonprofits get much bigger grants than they would get otherwise, and the donors get more expertise and leverage than they would get otherwise. Blue Meridian employs a staff of experts who select organizations that are poised for scale and invests $100 million or more in each organization. The Hewlett Foundation could never do that on our own. We don't have the expertise or the dollars. We're a limited partner here. We only contributed 10 million of the 2.6 billion. We don't get a vote at the table, but we are able to bring our expertise, our questions to the group, and we're able to bring back to the Hewlett Foundation ideas and approaches that we learn through Blue Meridian. So it's a win-win for us to play a supporting role. The third I wanted to share is called the Climate Leadership Initiative. Despite the dire need, and this has been emphasized in the AVPN conference this year, I know, and was a core theme last year when we were all able to be together in Singapore. Despite the dire need, philanthropy has not responded to the climate crisis at a level commensurate with the threat. In 2017, there was a mere 950 million of US and EU giving devoted to climate. That's less than 2% of all giving per year. It's less than Stanford University alone, one university in one country, raises annually from its donors. So CLI was created and launched by 6 foundations, including Hewlett, to bring new high net worth donors to action in the face of the climate emergency. We know that donors want to take a variety of approaches and that they're able to do that in different ways in the different parts of the world where they live and work. And we don't want them to feel that they have to do it the way that Hewlett does. So we take a very hands-off approach. We've launched and seeded the Climate Leadership Initiative, but we've sort of set it free so that it and its donors can focus on the areas that work best for them. CLI does 3 main things for donors. It connects them to peers and experts, convenes meetings and events, and curates climate giving opportunities, recognizing that many of the donors coming to this work are brand new to funding in the climate space and working to get up to speed and figure out where and how they want to make a difference. As a relatively young organization, CLI has already unlocked over $100 million from 12 major donors, and they have their sights set on much bigger numbers and bigger impact down the road to hopefully meet the threat with the size and scale of giving that is needed. So those are 3 different types of collaboratives where both how we collaborate and the work we do in the collaboratives are quite innovative, and they take us beyond the individual strategies and grants that we might make alone as a foundation so that we can influence bigger change, take bigger risks, and give bigger dollars than we would ever be able to do as a single foundation on our own. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Lindsay. We're now going to move to the Q&A part of the session. And I'm going to ask all the panelists to put on their cameras and to join me in this conversation. We're just waiting for Dawn. Perfect.
Here.
Thank you. Hey, Dawn. I would like to explore a little bit deeper how you are hoping that your innovative approach will catalyze philanthropy. So Dr. Cheng, can I start with you? As I know that the Lo Chi Wo Prize has already started working on an academy, and perhaps you can share more about this.
I think, as you can see, the Lo Chi Wo Prize is an effort trying to identify people, outstanding people from different parts of the world, and hopefully put them together and give them the financial support that they need in order to continue with the good work that they're doing. So I think what we can do is we can see that this effort is now taking shape. We have, of course, all the laureates are now furthering their efforts in promoting a more harmonious world through the work that they're doing. But what we are happy to see is that some of them are collaborating through the introduction of the Lo Chi Wo Prize. A very good example is that Mr. Xi Zhenhua the 2017 Sustainability Award laureate, has put the prize money for the establishment in the Tsinghua University, the Institute of Climate Change and Sustainable Development. Now, this institute is now collaborating actively with the Nature Conservancy, our 2019 Sustainability Laureate. And they're working together to identify what they term as a systematic research and into nature-based solution to tackle climate change. And I think this is one of the ways we can see how the innovation of the Le Jiwo Prize is furthering the international collaboration between different parties for the common objective of doing good, and in this case, the prevention and detection of natural disasters, and try to come up with a solution for battling climate change, and hopefully would help people to be able to to build a more sustainable world for currently as well as for the future. Now, this effort needs to be perpetuated from generation to generation. So after 5 years of operation, what we're thinking now is that how can we identify a solution that we can work on to perpetuate this prize from generation to generation. Now, it started from Dr. Le Jiwo and the Lois family. And of course, for it to go on from generation to generation, it must be institutionalized so that it will become an establishment that would continue the effort to identify people from different parts of the world, get them together, put in the necessary funding to promote their work and to support their work, and so as to continue our effort in trying to promote more positive energy and looking for solutions to tackle the world's issues and problems. Now, this is hopefully we can pull people who share the same mentality, same thinking, and the philosophy of the prize together, including our laureate scientists, academics, philanthropists, and people from all walks of life, as well as corporation, in the academy, so that we can continue to identify suitable candidate for the prize, and then get them together and continue to supporting their work, so that this work can go on from generation to generation. Now, this is what we are working now, and hopefully we can get ideas from people from all over the world to help us to establish this academy and to help us to perpetuate this prize.
Thank you, Dr. Cheng. It's a fantastic approach to really building on the work, I think, of the prize to catalyze more philanthropy. Don, can you share your vision for how the Prudence Foundation viewed the challenge in catalyzing philanthropy?
Okay. Well, in the DTEC partnership, I guess we were trying to catalyze more than philanthropy. First of all, as I said, there's well-publicized, frequently spoken other kinds of tech, fintech, edtech, etc. So we wanted the category of DTEC, disaster tech, to begin to attract attention. So that's one kind of catalyzing. We're hoping through both having a contest and then working with large partners, each with their own networks, that we could catalyze others to talk about it, to spread it, to get entrepreneurs to think about how they could apply their skills, their technology, and their energy toward this category to save lives. Okay, so we're catalyzing a category. We wanted to catalyze funding. So we learned from we knew going in, but we learned as we worked with the different entrepreneurs that the prize itself is not the major funding that they need. Of course, they need funding from investors. But those investors could be from the world of philanthropy, could be from the world of impact capital, or they could be from the private sector for models which actually are profit models. So we learned from our experience that we had both nonprofit and profit entrants last time. The next time when we run the conference, we're going to have two categories of prizes, category for nonprofit and category for profit, which we believe will catalyze, if you will, different types of funding. A second type of catalyzing would be to catalyze users. I think one of the most valuable experiences to the enterprises that participated was at the AVPN conference, and subsequently, through this contest, they were able to meet potential users. I mean, these organizations, profit or nonprofit, need to be sustainable. So they need to have, whether it's a government customer, a government that might be having an installation of an early warning system of some kind for disasters or a relief system, or whether those are private corporations or individual philanthropic partners, they need users of their services so that they can have sustainable revenue. So that's the second kind of catalyzing activity we were doing. And then finally, support. There are different kinds of support that these sorts of institutions need. We know, we designed into the contest mentoring, both during the contest and then post-contest for the enterprises that reached a certain level. We have partners in our list there who are specialists at helping startup tech ventures reach the next stage, whether that's from angel to growth or growth to the next stage, so they can work with these organizations through that cycle. They also need specialized kind of mentoring, like, for example, how to make presentations or how to talk to the media. So that kind of support is also catalyzed through this government process. So this is a bit of a call to action from people who are listening, who have some ability to support these types of entrepreneurs in any of those ways. We'd love to know you and to know your interests so that we could help you help them. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Don. And I'm going to share at the end how people can contact each of our speakers so that they can understand more. Lindsay, can you talk a bit about how these approaches that you discussed have helped to catalyze philanthropic giving, and what are some of the key learnings that you can share?
Sure, of course. We've been really fortunate to have leadership support for these different types of collaboration and to support the situations where the Hewlett Foundation and our staff are going to lead and launch in the collaborative, but also where we're going to follow and support others who are leading collaboration. And we actually believe that sitting in the different seats of collaboration is really important. It creates a web of diffuse reciprocity, and it helps us learn and improve. When we're in the supporting role, we get a different perspective that can help us lead. And when we lead, we can learn how to be a better supporter. Hewlett is a very strategic funder. Everything that we do is done as part of a strategy with a rigorous plan for what we're going to do and how we're going to measure results. And yet, to collaborate, you have to have a certain openness to serendipity and flexibility in your processes. And I think that our leadership has struck a really nice balance in saying, go into it with a strategy and a theory, but also knowing that you need to be open to what the group will want to do and so forth. It's been really key to our success that with whatever level of decision making is required of us as a representative to the collaborative, that our staff are empowered to make those decisions at the table. So that the work can continue. And what we've found is that, and there's research from Bridgespan to support this, that probably the single most important thing in entering into any of these collaboratives as a leader, a participant, a follower, is a shared purpose with the others in the collaborative and a clearly stated purpose. So purpose comes before. I know there's some questions about taking risk in collaboratives and the role of technology and innovation. And for us, the purpose comes first, and everything flows from that. What decisions we make, how much risk we take, the role of technology. And there's a lot of data to suggest that when collaboratives falter or fail, those at the table didn't start with a shared purpose. Perhaps they started with a shared piece of technology or a shared thing they wanted to fund, but not necessarily with that purpose. There's sort of an age-old proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. And collaborating is not easy. It can often take more time than doing things alone, but it can bring large benefits to both the impact you can have and the learning and testing and risk-taking. It's almost like each of these collaboratives I described is a little learning lab that the Hewlett Foundation gets to, not little, big learning lab, that the Hewlett Foundation gets to be a part of, in addition to all the ongoing work that we're doing ourselves in parallel. And so I think that the net is that we can make the collaboratives better and the collaboratives can make us better, and real work can be achieved at the same time. But I think it's important to note that you shouldn't collaborate just to collaborate, but to do an assessment of if it's an issue where it's important to collaborate, where you have something to contribute in the role you're going to play, and most importantly, if you have a shared purpose with the other collaborators.
Thank you, Lindsay. I would like to explore, I'm kind of bringing together some of the questions I'm seeing through the pods as well. I mean, I think that what's been fascinating about this discussion is the three innovative approaches. So one is about reimagining prizes to catalyze great ideas. One is about reimagining challenges to catalyze a sector, a new sector in disaster tech. And one is really around using collaborations and partnerships to innovate how a foundation like Hewlett approaches philanthropic giving. So just to explore a bit more about those approaches, so in thinking about the prize, Dr. Cheng, given Dr. Wu's ties to Hong Kong, were there also thoughts as to whether to award the prize specifically to people in Hong Kong, or whether it was important to make the criteria so broad? Was there a tussle between what the prize was trying to achieve?
The prize is intended to be an international prize, so there is no sort of geographical qualification whatsoever vis-a-vis the prize. And so I think they basically what we can see that if there are worthy candidate nominated from Hong Kong, then I'm sure that if it goes through the adjudication of our different panels of adjudicators, the award will be presented to a worthy candidate from Hong Kong. But however, I think as we can see that globalization and technology is really pulling us together, and then it's a very, very interesting time, and especially COVID-19 make us realize that we can be in any part of the world at any time. We can carry on our meeting, and we can even join a conference, and that really tell us how important it is, because as a man by himself, you can do to a certain extent to contribute to the world, but collabing together effectively and adding in innovative measures through adaptation and adoption of new technology, that is going to really innovate collaboration, and people from different parts of the world can work together and work together towards a common objective of making and promoting a better world for the future.
Thank you, Dr. Cheng. Don, it's interesting because we have a question here around whether innovation in philanthropy is a situational, or I suppose innovation in philanthropy is often a situational intervention, because a foundation will see a problem and have to create a solution. And they're asking whether there is a possibility to be more proactive, or to have a more proactive intervention. And I think in a way the challenge speaks to that, because I think that it is a proactive intervention and an innovation. So can you tell us some of the lessons you learned from the first challenge that you will be applying when you launch the second phase of the challenge?
Okay. I think one of the lessons we learned is that, well, first of all, the question, it'd be some later on maybe that whoever asked that question, we could hear more about what they mean by reacting proactively when you don't see a problem. So it seems like what most people are trying to do, and what we tried to do, is we saw a missing space between the activities that good organizations and people were already doing and the problem. There was still something left to be done. And in one case, that was filling the information void so people would be prepared. That was the Safe Steps program. And then the DTEC program was then bringing this, in a sense, missing category or missing effort from innovators into the technology applications for disasters. We learned several things through the process. We learned that, well, first of all, one good thing about the process, I would say, is when we set the criteria for evaluating the various 60 enterprises or efforts that joined, at the beginning we weighted a number of things: social impact, the quality of the team, the quality of technology, whether the business model was sustainable, but at the early stages we put a little more weighting on social impact, so that we made sure that the idea, which could be honed and improved to some extent as they went through the process and received mentoring, but it would be an impactful idea, that we weren't spending time on something that had great sustainability but wasn't going to have a big impact, right? So we learned about criteria. We had it about right. I think that we will keep. We learned that some organizations have great ideas, actually good people, good business models, and good technology, but they're terrible at presenting themselves. So one of the things we will work on this time, I think, is through the process, is to maybe give some mentoring at certain stages of the effort on how to present your idea, so that you don't lose out on a really good opportunity or to be featured because you haven't practiced or had the opportunity in your community or your field to present yourself well. We also learned that, frankly, maybe nonprofits and profits should be judged slightly differently. Their priorities are different. They're trying to reach out to different communities, and sometimes the way the stakeholders that they're reaching out are different. So this time we were going to have two sectors. Originally, last year was one contest for everybody. We'll have a nonprofit and a profit, 2 prizes for each rather than 3 prizes in total. And we also reached out to an additional partner this time, E27, which is a tech media company that covers Asia and actually beyond Asia. And they have a big annual conference where they bring the venture capital community and tech innovators from all these other sectors I was talking about together, so that we can expose the DTEC winners and the profit side to that community well, and hopefully catalyze some more funding from them. So I hope that responds to your question. We're trying to apply those learnings. Next time around, ABPN will be in the thick of it again. We will be starting this November, launching, and then probably next spring be hosting winners again. So thank you.
And we're looking forward to being in the thick of it again. Lindsay, it's interesting, we've had a question here about how funders in collaborative pools of funding deconflict acceptable risk amongst themselves. And I think it's kind of one of the questions around, what are the internal and external challenges? So were there internal challenges in adopting this approach? And then also were there external challenges in understanding how other foundations viewed the risk of kind of this new approach to philanthropy?
I think it's a great question, and there isn't really one answer. I mean, I think by definition, being a part of a collaborative can often decrease risk. Often there's an entity that's housing the collaborative and making the grants, so it's decreasing the risk of being the grant maker or of bandwidth on staff, which foundations seem well-resourced often compared to NGOs that they're funding, but in my experience, generally staff are stretched quite thin and the operations are lean, and so there's even an operational risk sometimes. In the case of Listen for Good, we make 100, 200, 300 grants a year. Hewlett makes, 800. So another 300 is quite a large percentage. So I think that there are a lot of ways in which the collaborative, by definition, can decrease the risk. Again, I also think that it's critically important that the people representing the foundation are able to do so and able to make decisions. It's very hard to move forward in a collaborative if a decision's on the table and everyone or half the funders say, well, I can't make a choice about that, I have to go back. And what I have found is that two things. One, often in creating a collaborative, your process of creation, whether that's co-creation or establishing something and inviting others, the process itself often helps determine and find people who can work in that way. And similarly, once you have a collaborative and you have a set of decision rules, whether or not someone can sign on often is representative of whether or not they'll be able to take the risks that the collaborative wants to take. One thing we have found that can be very effective is giving people more bite-sized ways to test out the collaborative can help them move up that ladder of engagement. So saying, would you like to co-fund on one project? Would you like to choose the project? Would you like to attend one of our meetings as an observer? And giving people on-ramps to see if this way of working will be a fit for them can often help to decrease the risk and increase the likelihood of success of the partnership.
Thanks, Lindsay. It's almost at the end of the session. I wanted to thank you all, and I'd like to end with a final thought from each of our panelists. We've had a number of questions around COVID-19 and the response that each of your foundations might be taking to that. So I suppose, given that we were talking about innovation, it would be great to have your thoughts as to how your foundations are adapting to COVID-19 and if or how innovation is playing a role in that. Dr. Cheng, can I ask you to go first?
I think the world is fast changing, and so we need to change with the world, and in order to perpetuate the good work that we're doing. So I think in terms of COVID-19, I think our different partners from different parts of the world come to Hong Kong to do the adjudicating work, and so we have to unfortunately postpone the price of this 2020 to 2021. But in the meantime, we are adapting different form of technology to get people to know more about the price, the philosophy of the price, and hopefully more people would understand what the Loi Ji-Wo Prize is doing and the philosophy behind the price. And so we're keeping on, utilizing more and more the social media so that we can reach out to more people, especially the younger generation, so that our philosophy, what we are trying to do, would be shared by more people. And hopefully by doing that, we'll be able to do the work which we otherwise can do through awarding the prize. And I think I was watching some of these questions were talking about startups and new technology. I'm sure that philanthropies like the Loi Ji-Wo Prize Foundation would be happy to consider new advanced technology that can help us to do our job better. And we're always looking for new ideas, good ideas, and I'm sure that that is what I would like different foundations in this part of the world as well as further world to continue to adopt as the proper attitude to perpetuate the good work that we're doing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Cheng, and we will let people know how to reach out to the prize after this session. Don, would you like to make a final comment on that?
Sure. Well, we as you can imagine, being an organization which grew out of an insurance history, COVID-19 is right in the core of what we're here to be for, the purpose of being here, right? So we immediately, from the foundation side, took the Safe Steps platform that I discussed earlier that reaches out to 250 million people a day and created a COVID video that could be easily uploaded and put onto that platform for Asia or Africa. And the good thing about using animated videos is you can do those in multi-languages. So that was a quick reaction. We also commissioned another video project with another NGO, a different NGO that hadn't been a partner in Safe Steps before, specifically targeting video education, really easy to follow education for nursing homes. There are thousands of regulated and unregulated nursing homes, and as you know, the elderly population is the most at-risk population for COVID. So that was the second thing we did quickly. And then finally, not finally, but in addition, Prudence Foundation and our group chairman's office in London combined for a special COVID relief fund, which we have put out to the Asian and African countries. And our local partners, our business partners there, are finding charities in those countries to work with locally on special COVID relief initiatives, whether that's feeding at-risk populations or helping with children who don't have access to online education get access to online education. There's several different excellent programs that they've already come up with that we're beginning to approve and fund in the various countries, both in Africa and in Asia. Just can I say one other thing? I just think, everybody's going to be stressed during this time, and I'm sure, foundations around the world and people will be saying, do we have, how are we going to meet this huge demand? This is an opportunity for huge amounts of creativity when we bring philanthropy, the impact investment community, the public organizations, including multilateral banks, and put things together using creative tools like blended finance. You can amplify the financial resources that we can put to good use toward not only COVID, but a kind of green, sustainable recovery, if you think of it that way. When we're making relief efforts, try to make those relief efforts fit into a longer-term program that's sustainable.
Thanks, Don. I completely agree. I think opportunity for creativity and innovation is going to be vital to the response that the philanthropy sector makes to COVID-19. Lindsay, your final comments, and then we will need to wrap for the day.
I'll build on what both Dr. Cheng and Don have shared and go back to my first collaborative example of Listen for Good. It's always important to think about your sources of information and to listen to and value the perspectives and lived experiences of the people you're seeking to help in your philanthropy. But I think it's even more important now. Different groups of people around the world are not experiencing COVID the same ways. People who work at foundations are having a different experience than people who work at NGOs, who are having a different experience than many of their clients. And inevitably, we will have blind spots, particularly blind spots that come from the relative privilege of the positions that we sit in, the resources we have, the job security that we have, the safety. And so I think the onus is on us to go further than we ever have before and be innovative in how we listen to the people that we ultimately seek to help and how we respond to what we hear from them, what they need, what they're asking for. So I think this is a moment to bring those voices and perspectives into our innovative processes in all sorts of ways that maybe we've already done or maybe we haven't. But I would encourage everyone on the call to go back to the office and go on Zoom or whatever it is and think about, are we really hearing from people? How could we hear better? What are we hearing? How are we listening? I think that is not only the right thing to do from a place of dignity and trust and respect, but also the smart thing to do, because I think it will lead us to better solutions and programs than we would come up with on our own.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's a great way to end the session. I want to really thank Dr. Cheng, Don, Lindsay for being a part of the conversation today. I'm going to now close the session. I hope you found the conversation and discussion as interesting and as stimulating as I think the audience did. We had over 650 people joining us today. So I'm hoping that we will see a lot of inspiration and creativity that comes out of this. Just to finish the session, we have some final polls that I would love for the people, the audience to be able to complete, just so that we can understand how we can best support you in developing these innovative approaches. Whilst you're completing that, I just want to say thank you to the people, to the organizations that have made this session possible. We had the kind support of our impact partner, the Lotte World Prize, and our lead partners, the Chandler Foundation, Stockholm Environment Institute, and the Eden Prize Foundation. To continue chatting with your speakers and fellow delegates in this session, please make full use of the AVPN connector, and the link can be found in the resource section. Do share the highlights of this session on social media, and remember to tag us using the hashtag AVPN2020. I would also like to warmly welcome you to join us at the next session, The Future Skilling of Youth in Asia, which will be held at 2 p.m. Singapore time. Thank you for joining us today in the session. Thank you for being a part of AVPN's conference, and we hope you will enjoy the rest of the day and tomorrow for the conference. Thank you so much.